Good morning, class.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Mr.
Good
Dove.
morning,
Our new story this morning is The Red Balloon. Our focus is going to be on literacy and comprehension for the reading. Okay? Now,
Yes, sir.
again, our story, Red Balloon, title written by Sarah Moore, illustrated by Brad Lane. Illustrated. Anybody think they know what the word illustrated means? Thomas, yes?
Pictured by, like, colored and stuff.
All right, that is correct. Thank you very much for that. It's a great answer. Now, let's go through this very quickly. I want you to, first off, active listening position. Use these two more than this one. Okay. Marshall has a red balloon. He can squeeze it. He can stretch it. What is inside Marshall's red balloon? Not knowing what's in there. What do you think will be in there? Rayleigh?
Air.
Okay, air is one possibility. Anybody else have another prediction what they think might be in there?
Water.
Okay, water. Okay. Any more predictions? We have air and water so far. Anything?
No.
Okay, well, air and water. Those sound like two great predictions so far. Let's continue reading and let's go on. Now, who can help me read this first sentence? Who wants to help me? All right, Bethany.
There is rice inside Marshall's red balloon.
Okay, now, we know that there's rice inside. Ah, right. Now, we know that looking at the next sentence, that rice is hard and that rice is pointy. Okay, now, what's inside the balloon?
Rice.
Now, I have a balloon here. Like for y'all to see, I'm going to pass it around. Okay, but first, Nate, can you please read this paragraph for me?
Rice is a solid.
Okay.
Marshall can see it. Marshall can hold it.
Okay, now, we know now about rice. What is rice? I'll pass this around. What is rice?
Rice is a solid.
Solid.
And see it can hold it.
It's rice.
It's rice.
Now, we know that Marshall has a what color balloon?
Red.
Okay. What can he do with it?
He
Squish it.
Squish it.
Oh,
Okay.
squish.
And he can also squash it.
Squish it,
Now,
squash.
again, top. What is inside Marshall's balloon?
More rice.
More rice. Oh, okay. Now, let's go. Let's continue on. Now, thank you. Now, there is water inside Marshall's red balloon. The water splishes, the water splashes. Next up here we have our water balloon. Please don't drop it because we just cleaned the room, okay? Hold on. You want to throw it, Ray. Okay? Now, what's inside of this balloon this time?
Water.
Okay. Now, what can the water do?
Splish and splash.
Now that we know that water. What is water? Looking at our
Water.
first.
It's liquid.
liquid.
Okay. Now, Marshall cannot hold it. It drips to the floor. Now, just for this purpose, we're not going to open it up and spill on the floor, but just for looking at our model from the story, we can see that it's a liquid, and if I was to open this up and pour it out, it's going to come out.
Make a mess.
So, water is something that I cannot hold. Now, going back to the two elements we talked about so far. I have
Rice.
the water and I have the rice. If they were in this balloon, which one can I hold? The water or the rice?
You hold both.
The rice.
No, the rice.
The rice, because the water,
See,
put
it
in my
says
hands, goes
Marshall
right through.
cannot.
Hold it.
Okay. Now, let's continue on. Now, Bethany, if you please read the first sentence for me.
Marshall has a red balloon.
He can bounce it. He can bang it. Thomas, if you please read the third sentence for me.
What is inside Marshall's red balloon?
Okay. Now, let's look at the picture. He's holding the balloon this time. And we see an arrow that's going up. Now, what do we see here this time?
Nothing.
Nothing. So,
That's not.
the liquid. Pour it out, make it nice. Drink. Now, we're going to air. We're going to air, and air is a gas. What do you think will happen? What else will happen?
The balloon will fly all over.
Okay.
The balloon will get smaller.
Very good. It's smaller, fly around, and air will come. All right, let's see what happens with this one. A little more air. All right, now, let's see if your predictions are all true. Okay. And all three predictions were true.
Woo!
That's good. And that is the end.
And
Now, we're going to go back through this, and I'm going to ask you some questions that relate to our story. Okay? Now, if you I will share this, and okay. Now, again, we're going to look at the who, the what, the where, and the why of the story. Okay? Now, what is the title of our story?
The red balloon.
Okay. And how could you come about figuring that out? What would make you just sing by seeing first off, seeing the title alone of the story
And
right
the
here
picture,
will
the
give you
illustration.
that will give you your first and best clue to tell you what the story is about. Always, okay. And of course the picture. But if there was no picture, you would have to depend on the words alone. Now, we also know that it was written by Sarah Moore, and as Thomas so wisely pointed out, illustrated by Brad Blank. And she also told us that illustration is the person that draws the pictures of the story. Now, if we go on to page 1 and we go back through, after we all read the story together, who would this story be about, Thomas?
Marshall.
Marshall. Okay. Now, and by looking at the first sentence, that should always your first clue about who or what or where the story or why something happened. Your first sentence is always going to give you your best clue as far as what the story is about. And we know here that Marshall has a red balloon. So what name do we see here? Marshall.
Marshall.
Okay. Now, we know who is the story about? Marshall. Okay. Now, what does Marshall have again?
A red balloon.
Okay. And we know that he'll squeeze it, he'll squash it, he can stretch it. Okay? Now, the question that they ask us at the bottom, what is inside? That can lead us to, we've already talked about who, now we can look at the what. Now, we know this red balloon here, and we're looking at what is inside this. Now, we've already gone through the story, so we know that the first thing that is inside our balloon is rice. Okay? So, we would go who, Marshall, what, red balloon. Okay, what's inside of it? Rice. Okay, now,
Rice is a salt.
okay, we know the salt. Now, we also can find some more descriptive adjectives about this also, in that it is hard and that it is pointy.
Pointy.
Mhm.
Yes.
Now, would this be nice to throw at somebody?
Yes.
No.
No.
Well, when you do beanbag toss, as long as they don't hit them.
That wouldn't be nice. That would be nice.
Don't hit them.
All right. Now, continuing on, okay, we're still talking about the first item, which is the rice. We discussed that it is a solid. Again, if I was to pour this out, I can see it. I can hold it. I can put it in the microwave, put it in the pot, I can cook it. Okay. I can do that now, but remember? Now, we go back to the red balloon again. Okay. What does Marshall have again?
Red
Sure,
balloon.
that red
Okay.
balloon.
Who was the story about again?
Marshall.
Okay. Now, what is Marshall? I'm going to be Marshall. What is Marshall doing to the balloon?
Squish.
Squishing it.
Squishing
Squashing
it, and he
All
can
right.
squash.
Now, we know from our reading that the first thing in there was rice. Okay. We know that hold it, it's solid,
Pointy.
pointy, and hard. Now, our next item or element in there was water. Okay. Now, with the water, Is the water hard? Is
No.
it pointy?
It's splishes and splashes.
Okay.
And cold.
The story.
Now, Marshall, the red balloon that Marshall has, this water is a liquid. Okay. Can you hold this water?
No.
In this balloon, I can hold it. If I was to untie this and pour this out, it would all go on the floor, and I wouldn't be able to hold it. Okay? It would drip on the floor and make a mess. And if you do this at home, your mother will not be very happy, or I know your mother would not be happy at all. Once again, we know that Marshall has a what?
Red balloon.
Okay.
Marshall had 3 balloons.
Yeah.
3 red balloons.
He's
Now, with this one,
Thanks.
if I tie this up, I can bounce it around and I can knock it upside my head and stuff.
Bounce.
I can bounce it, I can bat it, I can take a pin and pop it and
No.
and it'll bust everywhere. I can also untie it, let it go in. Make silly noises that will aggravate teachers in class. High school work. Now, we know what was inside the balloon the third time? Air.
Air.
Okay. And what was inside the balloon the second time?
Water.
Water.
And what was inside it the first time?
Rice.
Okay. So, what was our story about again?
Marshall.
Marshall.
What was our story about?
Red
Red
balloon.
balloon.
What were some of the items that were held in this red balloon?
Water, air, and rice.
Air, water, and rice.
Solid and liquid and gas.
Now, little FYI science element that you can take in this science class after you leave here. Water, solid, is a solid. Water is a liquid. Rice is a solid. Air is a gas. These are all part of your elements. The fourth one is fire. We're not going to mess with fire. No.
Can a balloon have fire in it?
No, we don't want to. We don't want to have that, no, because then I'll have to pay for all the damage in here. But no, these are some of your elements. Okay. Now, again, we know inside our third balloon that it had air. Okay, the air was light. It's light. In place of the air, I could put helium in here, which is a gas, and it would float up. If I was to,
They got a birthday party.
if I was to let the helium out and let it in, I would sound very funny. I would sound like I'm about 2 years old. But we're going to stay with gas because helium can be, although oxygen is flammable, helium can be also flammable. And that's right.
Dangerous.
Now, this air fills this balloon up so that you can hold it up and pop it around, bat it around, so let out and fly all across the room. And watch all your classmates, you all dodge and let me watch your teacher get very mad. Okay? Now, again, we know that air is a gas. You can't hold it. You can't see it, but it's all around us. And that sums up Marshall's red balloon. I have a few more questions that will relate to this. Okay. Now, we know that it was a who. We know that. Now, where did the story take place? Because remember, there's 5 W's. Who, what, where, when. What do you think? Well, before you preview, let's preview. Where do you think this story took place at?